if you're like me, you consume a lot of news. And at times that news can be disheartening. Uh, but this week I tried the grand experiment of only um, reading 10 minutes of news a day instead of longer than that. And I was helped a little bit by Barbara Marx Hubbard. This quote, she says that our media, which is like a planetary nervous system, is far more sensitive to breakthroughs, or excuse me, breakdowns than breakthroughs. I'll say this again. Our media, which is like a planetary nervous system, is far more sensitive to breakdowns than breakthroughs. They filter out creativity and success, considering them less newsworthy than violence and war. And when we read newspapers and watch television news, she says, we feel closer to a death in the social body rather than an awakening. She goes on to say, yes, something is dying. However, the media does not recognize that something is also being born. And I'm going to explain to you what she means by that. Because we all know the world is in many states of crises right now. But it's our job as metaphysicians, and I don't often say that in my 6 years here, and it is 6 years now. I don't think I've ever said we as metaphysicians, but a lot of other ministers in the New Thought movement say that. And I just want to explain what that means. We as metaphysicians, it means it's our job to look beyond the physical, to look beyond the mere condition, and to look beyond to the source of all that is divine, to look beyond to the source of unlimited solutions, to look beyond to the source of our unlimited supply, to what's really real. And that is where all things emanate from. It's where prayer power emanates from. It's the what Unity calls the absolute reality. So we as metaphysicians need to see beyond the mere conditions that we see, and most of what the news talks about is condition. So related to this, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who was actually a guest here about 3.5 years ago, basically said, unless we as a human race evolve, we're facing our own extinction. Now that's pretty dire. That's pretty serious warning. Unless we evolve, we're going to go extinct as a human species. But to add to that, Barbara Marx Hubbard says that there is hope because she says that global crises are necessary. They force us to change our paradigm. She also says that crisis precedes any transformation, that problems are evolutionary drivers, and that whatever we are going through is part of a planetary struggle to evolve. So you can think of global crisis as the same forces that, I talk about this model, the same forces that create a butterfly out of a caterpillar. It's amazing, and it has to be a total transformation. The caterpillar's survival depends on it. It cannot go back. It has to transform, and what emerges doesn't look anything like what came before. It doesn't look anything like that. So somehow we must have a similar, using that as a model, as a template, or as an analogy, I guess, we must have a metamorphosis on every level, and not one that is given to us from the outside. It's not given to us from the outside, it's given to us from the inside. So Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton said, what if we had natural empathy rather than being told not to kill something? Isn't that, I mean, that's crazy, but it's true. We don't, as a species, because we're mammals, we don't have this natural empathy that says killing is wrong. What if we had that natural empathy? Can you imagine that? Here's another paradigm shift for you. The word apocalypse doesn't have to mean the end of the world. It can mean the end of the world as we currently know it. And Barbara Marx Hubbard says that the apocalypse can mean the unveiling of a deeper humanity. So I was also thinking that this conscious evolution that Barbara Marx Hubbard talks about is the healing of the universe as we know it. It has to be because everything is connected. You cannot heal the world without healing the local and without healing the macro. So this could be a part of a grand healing process for the entire cosmos. And maybe that is where we are going. And I'll explain why. Let's start with healing of the body. My Let's just take any ailments. I'll take, okay, my foot about 5 or 6 days ago. I don't know why the bottom of my heel, I could barely walk on it. And then the next day it got a little bit better, but it was still kind of worrisome. And then the next day it got better. And then by the next day I was walking around and I had forgotten that I had the affliction to begin with. Okay. Um, any buddy that's cut their finger, you can see, okay, when you cut your finger, you don't worry about it, it's just going to be time. And the process of healing is going to take place. That process of healing is miraculous. You have to understand nothing about it, but it happens. Another example, grief. Everyone knows, I don't know if this is a saying, but everyone knows the fact that grief, to heal grief, it takes time. It takes time. And everyone that I know of trusts in that process. Trusts in that process. And even though, let's say grief is the size of this Starbucks cup, it's a big thing that's in your face, right? And this is, I learned this from Reverend David Bruner, that when something happens that causes grief, it's right in your face like this. But as the grief heals, it goes away, but it's still as big, but it just goes over here so we can get on with our normal lives. And then every once in a while it comes back in our faces. But when it comes back, each time it comes back, there's a part of the healing process that is very nuanced, that is healing different aspects of the process. We're trusting in this grief process. It's mysterious to us. We don't know how it works. And Chris just put in the chat, grief comes from the great grief comes from a great love. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Chris. So whether it's your foot or your finger or grief, we expect healing. Healing happens. So why should healing be limited? And I think this is what Barbara Marx Hubbard is getting at. Why should healing be limited to those realms? Let's talk about now evolution. We, for the 300,000 years that humans have been around, we have evolved biologically, but you go back 4 billion years, a little bit more than 4 billion years, and we are the ancestors of single-celled organisms. And all the things that it took to get us here, thinking about the miracles of, I read an article the other day, just the eyeball and the thing that the eyeball can do, translate all these signals into something that it can see, and that this eyeball still has a greater resolution than any of our smartphones. It has a much greater resolution than any of our smartphones. I could go on and on about the miracle of the eyeball, but the miracle of the human body, the liver does 500 things that we know of, okay? And we're discovering more and more and more things about the body all along. And every single time we make a discovery, we say, that's more, that's a miracle. But it's been a part of this biological evolution. So what else is evolving? Knowledge is evolving. We have so much more knowledge than we did 10 years ago, and it's exponentially growing. What else is growing? Technology is evolving. It's evolving at this exponential pace. Now, AI is going so fast. I say that within 3 or 4 years, there are going to be movies out there where we're not going to be able to tell whether it was the real actor or whether it was AI generated. It's happening that fast. Look at Waymos. Look at Teslas in Texas. There's self-driving cars all over the place where I live in South San Francisco. It's moving fast. But what about, so we've got AI, but what about EI and SI? Anybody ever heard of those? So EI is emotional intelligence and SI is social intelligence. They teach us about that in ministerial school. You must have those things. You must teach people about those things. And there's an important reason. There's a lot of knowledge out there, but it takes emotional and social intelligence to figure out that we've got to use that knowledge. We've got to use the science. Our leaders don't know how to solve an argument. What does that say? Our world leaders are around the globe are killing millions of people, either directly or indirectly, or through actions or decisions. And our world leaders don't know how to process trauma, let alone act spiritually. And we become the victims to that. So, what about emotional and spiritual evolution? What about EI and SI? What about social intelligence? Okay. So, Barbara Marx Hubbard is basically saying that in a nutshell, we've evolved biologically. The next step is for us to evolve in emotionally, spiritually, socially, such that we have a conscious evolution. And this conscious evolution is a choice. Biology was not a choice. We didn't have a choice. We were going to evolve through natural selection. But this emotional, spiritual, social evolution, conscious evolution is going to be a conscious decision. We have to choose peace. We have to choose empathy. We have to choose nonviolence. But this is where I've been talking about world leaders. It's easy to do that. It's easy to blame the outside, but this is where we come in. And this is my theory, is that because we're all connected, there are two conscious evolutions. There is the conscious evolution of our soul that has to happen at the same time as the conscious evolution of the planet, okay, or the cosmos or the species. All of it. All of it. And I think that we have to begin with ourselves. Barbara Marx Hubbard was hinting about that when she said, I'll read this, the path of the co-creator, that means you in this room, the path of the co-creator is to be awakened spiritually within, which then turns into your deeper life calling, which then makes you want to reach out to others in a way that really evolves your communities and your world. And certainly, she says, we can't do any of this unless we activate ourselves first. So the rest of my talk is going to be about activating this conscious evolution. So I talked about butterflies earlier, and there's something called the butterfly effect, which I read about a couple of years ago, and it's very relevant for what this topic is. So the butterfly effect, in chaos theory, the butterfly effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions, and this is the important part, in which a small change in one state can result in large differences in a later state. In short, you can think of the analogy of a butterfly flapping its wings that's creating an energetic typhoon a million miles away. I mean, it is true that through gravity, all things are connected. And just by me doing that, all of gravity was a very small change, but all of gravity, all of the universe was feeling that. It's all connected. The German philosopher Fichte said that you cannot remove a single grain of sand from its place without changing something through all parts of the entire ecosystem. That's the universe. You cannot move a grain of sand without some sort of an effect. And that's what chaos theory is. There ain't no chaos. Everything is related to everything. Everything is connected. So if we want to change something small in our lives, that's a really good thing because it has a ripple effect onto the world. Karen Drucker would say it this way: I can change the world one heart at a time. You know that song, I can change the world one heart at a time. That's all you need to know. That happens to be similar to my call as a minister to ministry, is this willingness to dedicate my life to changing the world one heart at a time. So let us be a changer or a change agent. Jesus was a change agent. Myrtle Fillmore was a change agent. She changed herself, and that basically created the reason why we're sitting in this room. It spread to changing so many things. It created, Unity Village is its own proper city. It's its own zip code. It's 400 ministries. She did that because she cared about changing and healing herself. And I don't need to name all of the great changers in the world. Be the change you want to see. But I think that whether it's Jesus or whether it's Gandhi, the message is that it's our turn now. Jesus, the Christ, right? The Christ was not reserved for Jesus. The Christ essence, that Christ consciousness, that Christ power to heal, that is for all of us. That's what Jesus wanted for all of us, not for us to be in awe and worship him. So change agents. And I want to, as I reach kind of a conclusion to this talk, I'm going to say a few more things. And one is thinking about each day as a tipping point. It's not out there someday. It's the conscious evolution of everything, and it's already happening. It's happening in your thoughts. It's happening in your emotions. It's happening in your decisions to be a spiritual person and heal things in you. In fact, the author Vienda Maria said, when we heal a part of ourselves, we heal that part in the world. That's pretty fascinating. That really is in line with everything is connected. So when people start to say, okay, in a couple, I want to be the first one to say I'm sorry. When they're the ones who say, something, I don't need to prove that I'm right in this situation. There can be two truths. I talked about that last week. When more and more people start to say that, there's a shift going on energetically in the planet that you are creating. It's healing something in the world. I believe that this work that we do right here, sitting right here in this room, is consequential. So it's one heart at a time. So in closing, I'm going to say, if this can be a whole ministry, conscious evolution, but if you don't know where to begin, I have 3 suggestions. One is pay it forward. It was a movie that was maybe 20 years ago. Watch it again. It's about well, there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where someone is going to jump off a bridge. Okay, there's no spoilers in here. Someone's going to jump off a bridge, and someone else comes along. I think it's a woman that's going to jump off of the bridge, and this guy comes along and says, "Don't do it, don't do it." And he talks to her, and he gets her to stop. And she's so grateful later that she says, "How can I repay you?" And he said, I don't need repaying, but actually the one thing you can do is you can pay it forward by creating random acts of kindness. Change 3 other people's lives through random acts of kindness. And this becomes a phenomenon, a national phenomenon. So pay it forward. That's one way. That's healing. The next one, the next idea, how can we activate this conscious evolution, is praying for others. And when you think about praying for others, you yourself don't have to be in the greatest mood. You yourself don't have to be You can be going through it. You can be going through something. But when you pray for others, whether it's one-on-one, actually praying in the room with them, um, like Denise does, or praying on the phone for someone, or if you're just praying for somebody without them knowing, it creates a resonance and a vibration within you where it uplifts you in order for that healing to take place. And your job is to see that other person. Juliet's a chiropractor. Her job is similar. Her job is to see that person as perfect and complete. And basically, aligning the thought, the vision here to that person's perfection, knowing that the body is going to do a lot of the healing work. So when in doubt, pray for others. And along that line, I'm just going to say in about 6 or 7 weeks, I'm pretty excited to offer a workshop on healing that is going to be that has the praying for others as its main product. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited about this. The last one, I'll conclude with this, is how can we activate this conscious evolution? It's hold true to a North Star. Whatever that North Star is, it could be a North Star for yourself, it could be a North Star for the world. But my North Star is a world where everyone wins and nobody loses. And letting the butterfly effect begin with me, changing the world one heart at a time. I believe it's possible. I believe it must happen, and I believe it's happening now. And I'm so grateful that you're along in this ride with me, because we're all a part of this conscious evolution. And for this, I'm so, so grateful. And I am complete. And Margot, I'm going to reach over here and spotlight you for this beautiful song that I love that you brought to us.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope, quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For God's love, God's love is in this very room. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope, quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For God's love, God's love is in this very room. In this very